All right. So, David, recording's on. It's going to be first episode for our quality education podcast for our Global Goal 4 final cap project. So we can start with a pretty brief introduction of me and you. I guess I can go first. My name's Josiah Rivas. I'm a senior here at USF, majoring in communication. I moved here in 23, down from North Carolina after I got my associate's degree. And currently, I work at the Office of Veteran Success on campus at USF Tampa. And you can go.
All right. Well, my name's David Cardona. I'm also a senior here at USF Tampa, communication major. Uh, I've lived in Tampa most of my life, primarily the Land O'Lakes or Spring Hill area, but I'm familiar with Tampa now as I've been going to the college for a long time. And I currently work with the USF Athletics Department, assisting in event management. So getting all the games and all the sports related activities set up in preparation and enhancing the experience for fans.
All right. So moving on to our second point for this introductory kind of podcast episode would be what education means to us. I'll let you start that one, David.
Well, in terms of what it means to me, it's been a big part of my life for a long time because my mother has been a teacher. She teaches Spanish. She's taught art before as well. So she's been teaching both myself and many students for a long time, elementary school to middle school level. So I know kind of a lot more about the importance of education and being able to create a standard that is something that can be motivating for the students and also create a sense of relief for the parents and all the volunteers, knowing that the education that their children are receiving is going to enhance both them in the present and also in the future with other students that might be interested in doing it. So I've known about education for a long time. It's been a part of my life for as long as I can remember, really, since I started taking school seriously. So it's important to me that we're doing a podcast like this to be able to spread more light on a topic this important that's constantly changing, especially with a lot of stuff that we'll talk about in the coming episodes.
Yeah, all really good stuff. For me, it's somewhat similar, not exactly the same. Um, Education has always been a big part of my life. Something my parents always emphasized within me and my family. It was always homework first, do what you have to do before you do what you want to do. And I can kind of proudly say that oftentimes at school, I would have like really strong bonds with the teachers. I was always like a type of nerdy kid. So I was more hitting the books than hitting the gym. Um, and even outside of that, I like to participate in a lot of extracurricular activities, stuff like robotics. I was a part of my school's student government, and that gave me a lot of gateway to help just kind of improve the education or academic experience for a lot of my peers. And that's why for me, education is kind of so important. I've always valued our teachers and then valued bringing other students up, making sure everyone's like following along, things like of that nature. So moving on from what education means to us to what brought us to this project, I'm going to preface this by kind of describing this CAP senior project. So we're supposed to be focusing on one of the 17 global goals put forward by the UN in order to create a more sustainable, equal kind of global culture or, you know, and yeah, just kind of words, but for Global Goal 4, it's mainly focused on quality education, making sure everyone can read, everyone can write, everyone has the same opportunity to higher education because it's often seen uh, education as a way to kind of increase your social mobility. If you're educated, you can get higher jobs, you can get higher pay, you can get um, to live in kind of better places. So it's very important that everyone has the same chance to kind of improve their life. So what brought me to the project is honestly out of all the um, different topics we could have chosen from, like mental health or food or the ecosystem, I thought it was kind of relevant, especially in the year 2025. I've kept up with a lot of different articles kind of chronicling how quarantine and COVID kind of changed all of online learning. I know personally, speaking for myself, I'm kind of not too good with online learning. I'm more of a procrastinator, so I need a teacher in the classroom always keeping me on my toes. And I've noticed a lot of students, especially in America, kind of failing to read, failing to write. We're seeing like 10th graders with like a third grade reading level, students relying more and more on AI to do the work
Yeah.
for them.
Yep.
And outside of that, where students are kind of falling behind, kind of economic turmoil means more students are having to kind of like not go to college after high school. They're instead focusing like, okay, we can't afford this, scholarships are being cut, we gotta work just to keep a roof over our head. For younger students, it's like parents are kind of tight on money, don't have the school supplies, maybe don't have the pens, the notebooks, the good backpacks, kind of dampening their overall educative experience. So I thought it was important to, kind of highlight in this local area ways we could improve education and the academics experience. David, what do you think about it?
Well, I think you touched on a lot of points there, obviously. So the main point I would want to point out is definitely AI. I think that you mentioned it briefly and how it's affecting the reading and writing for sure. So that's one thing that I thought about initially when I was reading about this global goal, just kind of this shift towards technology becoming more of making things easier instead of using it to assist us, instead of using it as kind of a excuse me, as like a extra thing. It's now being used for a sense of complacency, like, oh, I don't really have to learn to read as much because I can have it summarized, or I don't really need the extra help because I can use Gemini or ChatGPT, stuff like that. So I think that's one thing that concerns me, especially when I hear about some of the struggles that a lot of the elementary school students go through when it comes to reading and writing. I know test scores have been fluctuating up and down like crazy this current decade, and a lot of that is because of the shift to having AI and using technology more often for classes. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, we didn't really get access to any sort of technology. It was all binders and notebooks. And now in college, everything is practically online. It's on softwares, the homework is online, there are tests, there are online classes that you don't even have to take notes for half the time because there's just this sense of not putting as much effort. So that's what stood out to me, because I think it's important that we give more of a voice to people that are concerned about education's quality shifting and no one really trying to get involved as much when there are so many ways you can get involved. It's not just one kind of way, like, oh, I'm going to tutor. There's so many different ways you can help with enhancing education, and the specific kinds, whether you want to focus on younger kids, college kids, high school kids. It doesn't matter the grade or the level they're at. There's so many different ways to help them that it's such an easy choice for me to want to work on and create this podcast and talk about this global goal, because education is going to be with us forever. This is what fuels us. This is what gives us knowledge. It's what allows us to have, great ideas and projects come to fruition. It all comes from the education that we get as your children and as we grow into adults. So being able to create this and being able to work on this with you is I'm really happy. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, yeah, you did cover a good bit as well. So yeah, we're kind of on the same page. We're concerned about the kids more specifically, how
Yeah.
they're going to develop. And just adding on to what I said earlier, I had the opportunity to go to a dual enrollment high school college, and the coursework was like harder. We had to do kind of more than compared to the other local high schools, but coming out of it, I was like very thankful because I got kind of just more intense training education wise that gave me, I think, a lot of relevant experience that I can use in college and made the transition to college much easier.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
moving on to our fourth topic for this first episode, going to be our past volunteer experiences. You want to start with this one, David?
I can start with it. In terms of past volunteer experience, a lot of it for me isn't Initially, before we started this project, a lot of it wasn't education focused, but it's a wide range of stuff that can assist with education. Like I used to participate in teen court in high school, where we would assist with students that have court cases, and we would work as the jury there and prevent them from having any actual criminal punishment. I mentioned I work at the athletic center. I do a lot of event management there. It's a lot of teaching yourself, kind of with the different games. There's different things to do. The big one for me was I used to be a lifeguard for a long time, about 8 months or so, almost a year. That was a lot of teaching as well because it's a lot of being able to regulate and explain to people why we do things a certain way, why we have a rule for this. Because obviously, when you're going to a pool or stuff like that, you're not really thinking about, oh, I can't do this, I can't do this. So you have to be a strong voice there that doesn't shift too much. And then in terms of education, volunteering. I've done a little bit of tutoring before this. I've done some coaching as well for like the after school sports, like the football and the basketball. In terms of elementary school, I've been able to help there. But I think being able to work on this project is going to be a big help for finding opportunities that work for me personally, which is back to what I mentioned before, where there's so many different ways you can enhance education that you don't have to stick to just one. Like if I'm not as much into the coaching with the winter sports as maybe tutoring the elementary school, the high school students, then I can just pivot to tutoring and different forms of tutoring, aftercare help when there are kids that, their parents aren't able to pick them up at the designated time of the school, just little things like that. I have experience in that. And I know that as we go forward in this podcast, I'll be able to gain more and more different forms of volunteering as well.
Yeah. Um, I find it interesting. You mentioned teen court. I had a few of my close friends in North Carolina when I went to high school take part of that. And while I wasn't part of it, I definitely got to see their process, and um, I kind of regret not joining it. For me personally, my volunteer experience, most of it did happen in high school. Like I mentioned earlier, as part of my student body government, and that involved creating like events similar to USF's Campus Activity Board, and a lot of the joy I got out of that was kind of getting involved with my fellow students, kind of creating more interactive ways to um, interact with the kind of academic structure. But even outside of that, I've been to several tutoring facilities, helped locally, and a lot of that did have to happen with special needs kids as well. I had many neighbors who their kids might have autism or ADHD, and some I've like ADHD, but it's not the same kind of
Yeah, yeah.
relevant
It's different
need.
for everybody.
hmm So I can like understand and help kind of relate the struggles to kind of translate how to do things, both in like a way that I understand and a way other people understand. I think that's one of the main things that volunteering kind of teaches you is how to translate like a message in ways different groups can understand. Like I know kids, like you mentioned with lifeguards, you got to explain why some rules are in place, why they're kind of there. You have to kind of put it into kid logic. I think that's something that can be easily translated to the general academic sphere. If today's kids kind of don't understand these old styles of like book and quill, you have to kind of explain it in iPad terms.
Exactly. You have to relate to them.
Yeah, it's just a great way to kind of relate to the general populace, the younger generation who you might not think you have a lot in common with, but in reality, you probably do share a lot more things in common.
Exactly.
So we're kind of drawing to the end of our allotted time for this first episode. So we just want to quickly touch over for our plans for future podcast episodes. It's going to be the first of five, and the next episode will just be me and David again, and we'll be talking about different organizations and volunteer opportunities in the local Tampa and USF area that would pertain to our global goal of quality education. One of which being the Pinellas Foundation, located in Hillsborough County. And then, David, would you like to touch upon our interview subjects?
Yeah, we do plan to have two interviews for this podcast. We're going to have one interview with one of the members of the Academic Success Center at USF, Mr. Will Forday, Missouri. He's the Assistant Director of Tutoring and Writing Services. So we plan to do an episode with him. I know we have another episode set up as well with I believe you said he was a vocational uh,
It
director
would
of sorts.
Yeah, it would be Clifford McCappy of the Office of Veteran Success on campus. He is the student program director, but he also has a lot of past experience in guiding and I guess it would be advising with certifications and vocational rehab training, which are offered at USF.
Yeah, so we're really looking forward to interviewing both of those, gaining two completely different perspectives, but at the same time, all regarding the same topic of enhancing education and the different fields of education based on, the education benefits that USF has or the uh, degrees programs changing, the high standard for that kind of stuff, and just gaining their perspective and being able to connect it to our global goal and being able to use this podcast as a source for them is what we're really, looking forward to doing on this for sure.
Yep. So that kind of brings us to the end of our first episode. Next week, will or I guess tomorrow will also be when the second episode will come out. So we look forward to seeing you all again. All right.